Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website ageoftruthtv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website ageoftruthtv. Hello, Augie.
Hey!
Hey, good to see you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh. I can't hear, that's why.
Ah.
Now we're good.
Looks like that would help.
Yeah.
Great. I hear you great. And you can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
But thank you so much. Where are you right now? What time is it at your place?
I am in Tucson, Arizona.
Great. All right.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Yeah, that is where we don't have any winter here.
That's great. Yeah, I understand that. It's getting cold here in Denmark.
How far out of the box do you want to go?
Well, let me turn on the camera so you can meet Lucas. Just a second. Let me get him on here. Let's see.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. We have a special guest for you today, a Norwegian gentleman who's been living in America for more than 50 years. He is an author, a lecturer, a spiritual scientist, and a researcher. He's here to talk about quantum mechanics, quantum science, time travel, the power of the mind and consciousness, and how you can create a new life for yourself. Also, going back on your own timeline to change your past. AAGE NOST. Good evening from Copenhagen, Denmark, and welcome to all of our viewers on Age of Truth TV. Please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. We have a fascinating show for you today with a gentleman who's actually from this part of the world. He's from Scandinavia, but he's been living in America for over 50 years. And he has a lot of very fascinating information to share with us. So it's a pleasure to welcome on the show, AAGE NOST. Hello, AAGE, and welcome on Age of Truth TV.
Thank you for inviting me here. And I gotta say right off the bat that in the words of Spark, live long and prosper.
Right. So you are obviously from Norway, and you are in Tucson, Arizona in America, and you've probably been traveling. But before we get into your information, which is very in-depth, thorough, and you have a lot to share. You're also a lecturer and an author, obviously. Please tell the audience a little bit about your backstory, your history, and what took you to America and got you into this field.
Well, I grew up in Norway, halfway up the country outside of Steinkjer. That's a small town up there. It's not so small anymore, but it's still there. And at the age of, I grew up on a farm, and I figured it out that I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So at the age of 25, I left the country and came to the United States to go to flight school. I spent 1 year in flight school and got all my certificates and ratings and, commercial pilot instrument rating, multi-engine rating, multi-engine instructor, and all the good stuff that you have to do. And it was tough. It was really hard. And to be totally honest, it was a little bit above my intelligence level coming from the farm. I wanted to quit so bad, but I burned my bridge. I had to succeed. There was nothing to go back to. And some people may learn from that. Once you have burned your bridge, you win because you have to. And I started flying for other people for 3 years to learn and get more experience. And then me and another guy, we started a flight school. And that flight school in Minneapolis became very successful. We had 23 airplanes we were teaching and flying charter with. We became an international air taxi operation, and we also became an air carrier. And it was great, but I did so much flying. I was there at 6 in the morning, and I was still probably working at midnight and came home. And there were, 6 hours of sleep or less. And I burned out. So I quit flying and I started doing other things, developing the mind with hypnosis, which I did a lot earlier. But I also started looking inward in meditation, find out what really this existence is all about. I got hooked up with a guy named Richard Welch after I moved to Omaha, Nebraska. He was teaching a course, and I became a teacher of that. It's a mind development course where we show people how to assimilate information from a book at the rate of 50,000 to 100,000 words per minute with 95% retention. It sounds incredible, but it works. And they're still doing it. It's called ZOX Pro Training, ZOX Pro Training. You can look it up on the internet. And I had a lot of fun with that. I traveled around the country for a year, taught this course, and then I got involved in having my own radio show, and I got on TV as I hosted and produced 2 TV shows in Tucson for 6 years. And I started doing podcasts, and I don't know, here I am, I guess. I just had a really fun ride. It still is fun.
And this is not just an ordinary field. This is quite esoteric, quite scientific at the same time. In a way, you are a spiritual scientist. And it was because of meditation that you went into this field?
Yeah, and there's nothing special about me. Everybody can do that because my look at it is that all higher consciousness, pretty much all higher consciousness comes through meditation. If you start going inward, closing the mind down, leaving yourself open for impressions from the unified field, from spiritual entities and anything outside of the physical, you're going to learn things. You're going to see things. That is incredible. I had an incredible experience about 12 years ago when I was sitting in meditation and the universe was explained to me in concept and detail. I suddenly found myself in a bubble of light and I could see there were things floating by in it. There was inventions, people, concepts, ideas, and science. And it lasted for, less than 10 seconds, 5 maybe, and then it was gone. But it was burned into my, at that time, a brain, and I could go back and visit it. If I thought of something that I wanted to know, I asked the question and it popped out and I could remember it. So this has helped me a lot over the years to build the kind of knowledge that I am building my work on.
And that took you into the field of, consciousness, the power of the mind, time travel, parallel universes, dimensional travel, quantum science, quantum mechanics, how to create your own future and change your own timeline for the better. So we're going to go into some of these topics, but my first question for you is, are we living in a holographic simulation in the multiverse?
Well, there's a long answer and a short answer. The short one is yes.
I think
The
we want to
long
hear
one
more.
can't get any shorter than that. But the long one is that science, quantum mechanics, is showing us that we do. There is a scientist, his name is James Gates. He says that if we look deep in the equations explaining the fundamental particles of time and space, we find computer language. We didn't put it there, but it just shows up through the only way to explain it. And if there is computer language in the explanation of the fabric of space, there's got to be a computer somewhere, right? I'm sure. And I think the problem is that people haven't figured out where the computer is. Let me point to him. It's you. The computer goes back to the concept that we are living in a mind-created universe, which science is telling us. And this is hard to wrap our heads around. Let me explain it with an example that everybody can understand, because you've got to remember, Albert Einstein told us that if you cannot explain quantum mechanics to a 10-year-old and he will understand it, you don't understand it well enough.
And Augie, just before you go on, let me just jump in here for the audience that may be a little bit confused. These are big words. Will you first explain to people what is quantum mechanics?
Okay. It is a new form of understanding of science. It deals with subatomic particles, electrons, protons, and subatomic particles, because they say now that they have found the smallest particle in the universe, the Higgs particle. What happens if you cut that one in half? That gets smaller, doesn't it? So we will never come down to the smallest particle in the universe, but this is quantum science. And then what we are finding is that these particles, subatomic particles, they phase in and out of physical existence. They're not only here. They're only here when we think about it, try to observe it, and interact with it. Because the unified field is just a vibrational field in the explaining quantum mechanics. And when we think about it and interact with it, it collapses. The field collapses into physical particles that we can interact with. And the example I was thinking of explains exactly that. And that is that I'm a hypnotist. If I put you in a soft chair and talk to you for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I tell you that when I snap my finger and bring you back out, you will see an elephant standing next to you in the room. And I snap my finger, bring you back out, and you look over there, and by God, there is the elephant. You can smell him, you can hear him breathing, you reach out and touch the snout on the elephant, and you can feel the rough skin in your hand. But there's a problem. I can't see the elephant because there's no elephant there. What happened? Did your real world go away? Yes, it did. I just convinced you that you could do this, and you created the elephant in your mind, and he is perfectly real to you because you can feel him. That's the power of the mind. So now you created something in your reality that is artificial, but it feels real. Look around you. My coffee cup. You can't see it much, but there it is. Is this real? I think you can hear it. It should be real, but according to quantum mechanics, I created that coffee cup in my mind to believe is real. Same system as the elephant. If our mind can do that, what else can it do?
So there are
And
two forms of manifestation. One is that if you're a hypnotist or a stage hypnotist who can get people to believe that they're eating apples, but they're really eating onions. I saw somebody do that, or jump around pretending to be chickens or something. But I mean, that's one aspect of it. To go into the, let's say, the more easily suggestible mind, because not everybody can be hypnotized. But then there is the collective, because I saw the coffee cup, even though it disappeared a few times, but that's probably because of the green screen. But I mean, I'm just saying that we all see that. We all see what is around us. We know that you are wearing a shirt that is red, and I'm wearing white and stripes today. So, I mean, but we can see that because we've been taught that this is what
yeah,
it looks like. So that's the collective. So we also create collectively in our minds, and we create
yeah.
the world around us also because previous generations created it, or because we are co-creating it. But how can we co-create something we don't know anything about from infancy, really?
Yeah, that's the thing. Our creation start right after we're born because we're born with a blank slate, except for instincts, possibly in genetics. And from there on, everything we probably know is learned. Our mom told us that certain thing is real because here it is. Okay, we accepted it. We have accepted everything around us. And that is the common floor of understanding that you just talked so eloquently about. We create commonly as well because we accept that our neighbor believed that gravity exists, so it has to. And my mom told me it is real, so it's real. Now, that is a common understanding that we accept. Now we can create within that understanding in a totally different way. And that is what in fact, I wrote about this in a book that I created a while back, where I show people how to use their mind in ways that you normally would think be impossible by creating your future before you have to live it. And there is a process for that, and it works. I have made it work, and it is, well, it's not just me doing this. It's a lot of other people are doing this when they're waking up to the fact that we live in a mind-created universe, and that is our mind create within the other holographic expression of the universal mind.
So everything is spiritual, esoteric, and occult wisdom and knowledge, which is basically the same, and it can be used for good and for bad. Also, astrology, numerology, and quantum science, numbers, structures, and sacred geometry. So, what we're seeing here is that we are part of all of that, all of what I just mentioned. That is part of our structure, and we may be living in a simulation, a holographic illusion, a holographic universe that is manifesting through the power of the mind and the power of the collective mind, the collective consciousness. But everything is or has been created. We walk down the street, we turn left or right, depending on where we have to go to. But all the houses are there. They were made by bricklayers and people working physically with their hands and architects creating all of these buildings and structures and everything else in our lives. It's there, it's physical. That's not just something I'm manifesting, you're manifesting in your mind right now, is it?
The common understanding, that's part of the universal mind. And there are scientists now, theoretical physicists are coming out to say that if we look at the universe, most of it is not even there until we put a telescope on it and start interacting with it. Then it comes out of the field, the field collapses, and it becomes planets and galaxies. We do the same thing. When we start thinking about something that we want within the commonality, we create it in our mind first, and it is loaded into the field. It sits there as potential for physical creation. That is that's what quantum mechanics call as the concept of inflation. And if you look at the concept of inflation within quantum mechanics, it explains it very well. We create it here, put it in the field, and go back and forth to the field and say, I want that. I want it in my life now. Then it finds a way, sometimes through strange ways, it shows up in your physical. Tell you an example. Nori Love, my co-host on Broadcast Team Alpha Show, we have created a mastermind where we do these kinds of creations on a regular basis. An example was that one of the members of the mastermind, he told me that my wife is in the hospital with COVID and she's in a really bad way. They're going to start her on the ventilator the next day, and they're going to give her remdesivir, I think is that drug that does away with you. So they're going to start that the next day because she was so bad off. We wrapped our mastermind around her. We visualized her walking out of the hospital perfectly healthy. And the next day in the late afternoon, her husband called me and he said, my wife is home. And the doctor said, you recovered so fast, there was no reason to keep you any longer. That's the kind of stuff we do in the mastermind.
But you also have to be a very talented and strong believer, right? In order to manifest that or to change it. Even if everybody can learn to do it, you have to truly believe it. This is the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, right? That you're actually talking about here, which is, of course, something we've heard about and known about for a very long time. That's a universal secret.
Yeah, that's true. Now, we all believe that this was going to happen, but she didn't, because she was in a coma. She could not know anything of what we did. We got permission to do that from her husband. She didn't know we were doing it, but she recovered. So the universe works in strange ways.
So we're going to go into your teachings, if you can, or your advice to people on how to actually do that, to change your reality, to manifest something new, and maybe even go back. You also talk about that, to go back on your own timeline, to try and recreate what you want, another version of reality, maybe. And then we can talk about, is that possible at all? And will that change where you are right now? But I mean, my original question with, are we living in a holographic simulation? It's like the Matrix, right?
There is a universal spiritual language. It's not one of words. Words are basically worthless, because the spiritual language to interact and communicate with the unified field, and I know some people call it God and whatever other things, that's okay. I'm good with that. When you communicate there is one language that is different than words, and that is one of emotion, visualized images, and gratitude for already having it now, because in that arena, linear time does not exist. It is past, present, and future sitting there as potential for physical creation. So now we talk to the unified field in form of this language as we already have it now. And that means visualizing in the present. Now, this is what we do on the mastermind that we put together, and it works when you use that language. Now, what religions do, they tell you, say this prayer. Well, okay, do that. The words are not the important part, is the visualized images and the feeling that comes with the word that ends up in the field, and you can bring back and have it as a healing or whatever you want. Are you with me on this one?
Definitely. But everything around us has been created. It is there. The buildings, the structures, everything we need around us, basically. It's there. It's not just in our minds, right?
The physicality comes from our mind.
And that's not just because somebody was a good architect and built the house or got people to, well, bricklayers and to,
Yeah.
create, manifest something in physical form.
Yeah. When something like that is created, let's say the architect creates a house and a week later we go visit the house. Well, the house is laid down into the commonality of creation. And we accept that, hey, architects, they can create the specs for the house, and then the builder goes in and so we accept it, and we go in and we visit the house. If we, under hypnosis, were told that house doesn't exist, you're going to have a really interesting time trying to visit that place.
But that's kind of twisting your reality in the mind. But that's not real, because when you're not under hypnosis, then you can see it. Then you can go into the house and you can live inside the house, even if it's made of atoms. And if you go really close to atoms, it dissolves, and then you can say that, atoms have no solidity. So there is no solidity depending on the point of view and how close or how far away you are from an object. But even we are also made of atoms. That means we're not solid either. But I mean, we're not talking about being under hypnosis. That's obviously a trick of the mind, and you know a lot about that. But what if we are just where we are now, not under hypnosis? Well, we think. So then everything is there, right? It's built, it's there to be used, to be seen by everyone. And when we die, other people will see the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. In the physical reality, this is very real. I'm knocking on the computer here. It is totally real to me in the physicality. And we work with that. And that's where the really smart ones, they're starting to expand, understand what is outside of the physical, in the field, that we can draw on and bring home. A little earlier, you mentioned that we could go back in time and change something. That sounds so ridiculous, but you actually can. Is anybody out there listening and watching this that did something so stupid in the past you would love to go back and change it? I got my hand up.
I think a lot of people probably would like to change certain things.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would. But how would the world change? How would their lives change if they were able to do that?
There is actually a way to do this, because there is quantum mechanics and science is showing us it is possible. If somebody out there, go ahead and Google the Helmut Schmidt experiment. He proved in a repeatable scientific experiment that you could go back and change the past. Let me explain a little bit how we can go about doing this. If you screwed up something, you married the wrong guy, okay? That could be. So you go back. Find a time before you made the decision, the stupid decision. Go back before that. Find a time back there and decide to make a different decision at the time that caused that stupid thing to happen. Now you visualize yourself going up towards that decision and making a different decision. You don't necessarily change the past because it is energy. Energy doesn't go away. That past will continue, but you change and you chart, create a new timeline with you in it. With that guy, he's not in it. Now you go on in a new timeline, which you can create again with good things in it as you would want once you understand how to create the future before you have to live it. When you do that, the stupid thing never happened in your new timeline. And this is something that could take a little bit of effort. But if you do that every day for a while, you just might find yourself in a new timeline where that thing never happened. But the trick is, you will never know that you are in a new timeline because the stupid thing is in another timeline where you don't have access to it anymore.
But if you knew that you did this exercise and you knew that you did this, let's say, manifestation technique, meditation, wanting to change it, don't you remember that you used this tool and tried to perfect it in order to change it?
What is in that time? Quantum mechanics speaks a little bit about this. There's a Russian scientist that talk about it. And he says, don't expect to be able to remember the old timeline. So I'm not the authority on this. I've studied quantum mechanics, but when it comes to the equations, I lose myself. I can understand the concepts and the principles, and that's where my mind is. In the equation on the blackboard, I looked into that and I lose myself.
In order to be able to use it successfully, how could they do that? It's good to have the best possible explanation for it, right?
Yeah, I have not consciously gone back to change anything. I probably should, but I have mapped out my life. I've done that for the last probably 40 years or so since I figured out. I heard that this was possible, so I find something that I want in my future. I create it in my mind in visualized images with emotions and love and gratitude for already having it. And the visualized images are very important. And I place that in the future at, let's say, a Christmas party or something, a birthday party next year, something like that. And I see myself standing around toasting with friends the success of what I've wanted to create. Now I go back every day visiting that image. And what happens is, and I've seen this, I've seen those, you lay down a tractor strings to it. The little bitty tiny white strings of energy that goes from you to that thing in the future. And you get drawn up that timeline to that thing you create. It could be a new house, a new home, a new car, great friends, a partner in life. That could be anything you want it to be, but be solid and very visual and love it and then visit it every day, maybe more than once a day if you like. You get drawn up there, and when that Christmas party come around, well, maybe not this one, it's only 2 days away, but the next year or the birthday party next year, then you just walk into it and
But
it's yours.
you're explaining now the law of attraction, the law of manifestation,
There
and
you go.
the power of the mind meditating, that having vision goals for the
Yeah.
future, which is, of course, something that a lot of people are teaching and have been teaching for a long time. This is the old secret and the key to getting what we want in life, and also be
Yeah.
very careful about what we don't want in our lives, because we attract it through the heart frequency and not just the mind, right? Because that
Yeah.
is it is the emotional frequency and the emotional field that will create it in order for it to manifest, even what we don't want. And the law of attraction cannot hear the word no, because if
Yeah.
we put intention into it, we will attract it. That is, of course, a truth that a lot of people believe in. So do I, and I also know it to be true, and so do you, obviously. But what about going back? What you were talking about, going back on your own timeline to change your past? What if? I mean, we've had lots of incredible guests on this show. Some were under mind control and came from a satanic family of satanic ritual abuse and lots of other things that are happening to people. And that was certainly a horrific experience in their childhood. But if they would like to undo that, to change their past and not to have this childhood and a different upbringing, and put another intention on that, could they like remanifest another and better version of their early years?
Yes, they could. But remember, what has happened in their past is energy. Energy doesn't go away, it stays in the field. But you can create the new timeline where that negative thing did not happen by visualizing it and feeling it and loving it into existence, and by making a new decision where that did not happen, or not necessarily. Let's say if it's a child, it may not be your decision, but somebody else's decision also in your field creating with you. So you can then create the future that influence did not happen. So yes, you can, but you end up, the way I understand quantum mechanics, that you end up with a new timeline, because we are in more than one timeline. We may be in a myriad of timelines, and we create one with good things in it once we start visualizing it into existence.
And then you won't remember that you used quantum mechanics and the power of the mind and the law of manifestation, the law of attraction, to alter it, to change it, or what?
Yeah, I think that's what Plednikov, I think it was Plednikov, the Russian scientist, he said, don't expect to remember the old timeline because you're not there anymore. And I think there's probably something to that. So when you are in a new timeline, don't remember that. You, if there's something you're trying to avoid that was your own decision, you got to make sure that you don't make the same decision. So it's a little tricky. You still could end up with the same thing if you make the same decision, but you set the stage for that by creating it before you enter into that new timeline. So you should be able to avoid it.
If somebody has to rehabilitate from an accident, can they like go back and change that, and then suddenly the next day or in a moment later they wake up and they don't have that problem?
My understanding that it is possible.
But you won't
And
remember the tool that you used to do it.
that is also my understanding. Just like the Russian scientist said, don't expect it. Now, he didn't say you can't, but he said don't expect it. So
And where do
That's
people
where,
go from there if they like change something? They won't remember they used the tool. Then what? Then maybe they want to change other things or want to be mindful about what they create in the future. But if they can't remember they used this tool to change whatever was changed, then it's like the death trap, right? You leave the body, the soul goes into this karma wheel factory, maybe created by these archons. We've talked a lot about that in this show. And then with a wiped memory, you're pushed back into a new body and have to go through whatever you have to go through, hell
yeah,
or a good time.
yeah, that's the tricky part. When you're in a tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, usually somebody is there says, "Hey, you can't come here anymore. You got more work to do." But if you get through the tunnel, you may not be able to get back.
But I
But
mean,
then
is
again, the
that the
other,
same thing, having like a wiped memory, if you use that tool to change your past, and then you
yeah,
are there in the now, it's not there. Oh, it never happened, you think, because you
yeah.
changed it, but you can't remember you used the tool. Isn't that the same mechanics, or does that not operate the same way than that the death, how the death trap operates?
Well, if you remember the tool, you also have to remember, why did I use the tool? Okay, that was because something really bad happened. And if you remember that bad thing, that becomes an impression on the mind that could draw you back to that timeline again. I think if you lock down the new timeline without any attachment to the previous one, when you design the new timeline, I think you're better off. You have less of a chance to bouncing back. I know I have bounced back before different timelines. Have you had any experience like that where you have, you know, things are totally different? Have you experienced that? A lot of people have.
Well, I've had a lot of fascinating experiences in my life, I have to tell you. But I think the important question to ask here is why the memory loss, if people have that. If the mind is infinite, if our
Yeah.
consciousness is infinite, energy never dies, the soul never dies. Will we be able to remember it consciously? Why the memory loss? It seems like that's a construct too in the Matrix, maybe created by, let's say, dark forces,
Yeah.
archons, jinns, what have you, demons.
Yeah. Where the If you would be able to remember the mind tool that you used, I'm not so sure I'm clear on that. Maybe it's above my pay grade. I'm not sure.
But if you can't
I
remember that you have this tool and you were able to, well, to maybe to perfect the tool, if you did
uh-huh.
change it, you did perfect it, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
but if you can't remember it, you kind of lose that ability. And then you go on with whatever, thinking, oh, I never was never married to that woman or man or
Hmm.
whatever you want to change.
Yeah. But I know there are people out there that have had things happen when you look at something that, no, wait a minute, that wasn't there before. What happened? And I sure got a good example of that here not long ago. I came back from the grocery store, my hand full of bags from the grocery store. I put the car keys on the island in the kitchen, put the groceries away, put the food away, turn around to grab the keys, and they're not there anymore. I know I put them there. A day later, I found them in the freezer on
Oh, I
another
was just going to
refrigerator.
ask you, you found them in the refrigerator because some people accidentally put their glasses in there because that their minds are somewhere else.
Yeah, but I never put any food in that refrigerator. We got two of them in the kitchen, so I never put any food in that freezer. But the keys were in there, so I have no other explanation. That was a time slip.
So, I mean, talk about time creation, the creation of timelines, the mind and manifestation. I mean, where did original thought original mind, consciousness come from? I mean, at first there was what? What was there? What, you know, was it nothingness? Where did we come from?
It,
What's the original thought, mind, something?
yeah, in the Bible, I think it says that it's the initially first was word. No, it wasn't. The first was thought.
By whom?
Okay, now this showed up in my download when the universe was explained, all the way back to the beginning. There was one particle of thought that entered this vibration, and it was empty. And it thought, it is empty. What can I create? And it multiplied itself into all the substance that we have today. That's what science called the Big Bang. There weren't any bang. There was just a multiplication. Even more science now, they have gotten away from the bang. The institutions keep talking about it because it says in the books. But when it multiplied itself, that showed up as a big expansion that is still expanding today. So
But I
there
mean,
are,
what came before the bang, so to speak, the Big
okay,
Bang? I mean, what was there before? Was it nothingness? What is that? And how can something come from nothing, from nothingness? What was the thought? And if people say, "Oh, that's God or God mind or source or a creative force," what is that? What was before creative force? No, creative force was there always, maybe. But what is always? What is infinity?
yeah. It wasn't created from nothing because I think we know nothing really doesn't exist. But on the other hand, that particle of thought came from another vibrational universe and slipped into this one, where it discovered that there was nothing here and I can create now. Anything is possible.
So in the multiverse, there are an infinite number of parallel universes, or do you think there are a certain amount of parallel universes in the multiverse? And what came before that then?
Well, that's a good one. Go on Google again, the many world concept of quantum mechanics. It explains it really well. You have universes everywhere, and there's no edge. Now, this one is hard to accept. No edge of the universe. There is universes beyond universes forever. I don't really know how to wrap my head around forever, but that's what it says.
No limitation, no limits, no boundaries, no
Yeah.
stop, no end. It
Mhm.
continues. We cannot grasp what that is. We don't know what that is because we are used to limitation,
Yeah.
timelines, life, death, black, white, day and night. Everything is yin yang. So there's a beginning, there's an end. And if there's
Yeah.
no end, how can we understand it and comprehend it? Maybe we can't. But there
Yeah.
must be something. If there was nothingness and something, everything came from nothing, something must have created it. That energy must have started to live in order to expand, in order to explode, whatever, to create. Where did it come from?
Yeah. In this vibration, whatever came in, it looks like it came from nothing, but it came from another universe into this one. And then I'll expand on what you said. What created that particle in the other universe to come here? And that again is above my pay grade. So,
I don't have the answer to it as well, but it would but I'm very fascinated to hear your thoughts.
yeah, I think that what quantum mechanics is indicating, I don't know, they are wrong about a few things too, but that there was no real beginning because consciousness always existed.
And consciousness is what? Is that God, God mind, whatever that is? I mean, people, of course, because they have a limited understanding of everything, basically, in this three-dimensional world, then they created this image of a God. I'm not talking about creative force, but they created an image of a man type figure or something they can, that looks like something they know in order to understand it. But
Yeah.
if it is a force, and it is a creative force, where did that come from? Or I mean, how did that all of that begin? Whatever that force is.
The original creator force, according to my understanding, I'm kind of leaning on quantum mechanics again a little bit, because I think if there was no beginning, that's the one we can't understand, because something had to begin, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe consciousness and intelligence within consciousness, and an intelligence can also create. Maybe that was no beginning on it. It was always there.
So what we end up with is that we don't know anything really because we don't know. We have to like believe. It's all about beliefs, right? We have to believe in God. We have to believe we either believe there was nothing, it's eternity, there's no beginning, no end, or there's a beginning and no, I mean, and an end. So we don't really know, and science certainly do not tell us as well, and they probably don't know either. But I mean, it's very, very, very fascinating because it has to do with where we are now in this three-dimensional plane where we really don't see very much. There's not a,
Yeah.
we don't really see what is really going on out there because we don't have the ability. And we have limited vision, and then we have our five senses, and then all of the other senses above that or beyond that. But I mean, what is then consciousness and the mind? Where does that you said consciousness was there from the beginning.
Or before the beginning. We don't know. You summed it up, man. You summed it up so good in this one. We don't know squat when it really come down to the beginning. So,
So yeah, well, we don't. We really don't. This is very interesting because it is leaving us with, let's say, speculation and kind of a
yeah.
gap. So let's talk about maybe what we can comprehend or what we believe is true. Sciences, all some sciences do talk obviously about a multiverse or a parallel
Yeah.
universes. Of course, it's not accepted publicly. I mean, in the wider, I don't know, wider population of the world, I don't know. But obviously, here we've been talking about it a lot. We certainly believe that this is a multiverse. Is there an infinite number of parallel universes in the multiverse, do you think?
Let me dwell on the multiverse first. There is scientists at Google that says we have created this quantum computer and we are communicating with another universe through that computer. So I think we are starting to discover that there is scientific evidence for another universe. If there is one, it could be a myriad of them.
Yeah, and
So
also, the militaries, the secret military, the deep state factions of the military, they've had access to all of these other timelines
yeah,
and dimensions, parallel universes. This is probably also what they do at the military bases, underground all over the world, maybe also at CERN in Switzerland, opening the portal through the Large Hadron Collider and all of that, even
Yeah.
inviting entities in order to manifest something here. We can also talk about that. So, I mean, if we say there are so many different parallel universes, do you think it's an infinite number?
Yeah, what is infinite though? We don't even know that. But I think there is, in the American term, I think, well, I shouldn't use that term, but I think there is beyond comprehension.
And you exist in all of them or some of them, and so do I.
I believe that we do, in at least many of them, some of them or many of them.
Where we live different lives and made different decisions and made
Yeah.
different choices, some for the better, some for the worse. But I mean, are we sharing the same soul with the versions of us in the other parallel dimensions?
Um, there is a source, and we found that one. There is a source that has temporary individualized sparks of life that we call souls. And that is attached to the physical creation we're walking around in this meat suit. And, and our experiences here is for a major purpose, because the soul essence has no physical body, so it needs us to get those physical bodies with experiences with emotion and trauma and things like that, to take back home, so the common soul can learn. With other words, God learns. So I think that what we are living here has a purpose, not only for us, but also for the soul essence to learn and grow and become higher in vibratory existence. Because spirituality tell us we got the physical here, 3D, and then we have 4D, that's time, so we can move around and have something going on. Then the fifth dimension, that goes from the astral world, and I'm an astral traveler, so I've seen how that works out there. Not necessarily a good place to be, so everybody that wants to go to the fifth dimension, you're going to be surprised. And higher dimensions within the fifth, that's where the good stuff is. So you got to pass through the lower vibration to get into the higher dimensions. That is good. And then you have the sixth dimension, where you have access to the future that you have already thought of and created, and you have access to the past that happened. Then seventh dimensional existence, 8, 9, 10, I don't know. From there on, it all kind of goes away on me.
So the soul is not, in essence, perfect and all-seeing, or the soul has to evolve. Therefore, it has to
Yeah,
inhabit a meat suit, a human, you and me,
yeah,
and everybody watching here.
yeah.
And so it's not really perfect. Is that what you're saying? The soul.
Well, if my soul helped me to create some of the stuff that I created in the past, more that soul had to be an idiot, because I did some things that I will never tell anybody about. Stupid stuff. It amazes me that I'm still alive from some of the stuff that I did in the past.
But that's like a
So,
sophisticated computer game we're in. We're talking about this simulation anyway. So if we can imagine that we are in like a sophisticated, well,
yeah,
computer game, and we made a decision or a choice or a soul contract or whatever when we were in another realm, maybe we were hijacked by these evil beings or these archons, whatever, and we can't remember what happened in the past until we learn to access information
yeah,
about our past lives and also maybe future lives. If
yeah.
the future and the past has happened already.
Hmm.
like the present. But I mean, if we're so that could be maybe we are perfect, but we wanted to experience. We wanted to be in the game. We wanted to be in this simulation, be in this computer game in order to have this kind of experience. You wanted to
Yeah.
be AAGE NOST, and I wanted to be Lucas, whatever, this time around, and then you were going to be somebody else or whatever. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And when you're talking about the past, those lives are accessible to you. If you, under hypnosis, get your brainwave pattern down into deep theta, you can access those. I've done it. So it's possible. And here's a cute one. My co-host on the broadcast team Alpha Show, Nori Love, she does something that I don't know of anybody else that does it. She takes people, put them under hypnosis, and take them forward in time to meet themselves, to talk to themselves, have a conversation, and maybe get advice from themselves, let's say a year or two in the future, about something that they're doing right now. Chances are that the future self is a little smarter. He knows what happened or what you're about to screw up and how to do it right. So you get the advice and you come back here and now you change a little bit and it works. These things are possible under hypnosis.
So is it not possible if if you're not under hypnosis? I mean, I, for one, it's not easy for anybody to try and hypnotize me. I tried it once because, I have to try, well, everything or a lot of things in this field in order to understand it. But I mean, some people have a difficult time being hypnotized. So
Yeah.
if I'm one of them, or some people cannot be hypnotized. Are there other tools and other ways to visit your future self or something?
Can I let you in on a secret? Have you ever watched TV?
It's a
Well,
long time ago since I watched what they call flow TV.
yeah. If you have ever watched TV, you have been hypnotized
Well, of course, we
because,
are hypnotized, and this is collective mind control. What is going on in the world with the
yes.
political system and the monetary system, and the educational system, everything, and
Yeah.
obviously Operation Mockingbird television, right, and media.
Well, you're way ahead of a lot of people. I love talking with you.
I've
Yeah,
been doing
there
it
you
since
go.
2005. So, I mean, you and I, we've done a lot. And also the guests that are on here. So, and I think the audience too, because they're used to hearing about all of these things.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Man, oh man, that's wonderful. But we can learn a lot from the past beyond the time we were born. If somebody is afraid of water, then that happens. Chances are they drowned in a previous life. And for some reason, that is passed on in the bioelectromagnetic field around the body. People call it the aura, which is pretty much the same thing. In there, laid into the aura, there is memories lodged in that bioelectromagnetic field. You can actually see it with Carillion photography. You can see that. I have pictures on my hand and things like that. And there's going to be a time shortly when somebody is taking a picture, or put a hand or something on a plate with Carillion photography and put a real strong microscope on it. Start blowing it up, and blowing it up. You will find there is structures of genetic material in that bioelectromagnetic field, because I saw that in the download. It is there. And the structure is different. It is more complete than what it is in the physical body. A lot of the junk DNA is already assembled. If we went into the auric field under hypnosis or through repetition or whatever, and demanded the body to recreate the physical body according to the bioelectromagnetic field or the aura, you're going to start seeing that your physical body changes. There's done experiments with this at UCLA. They took something called they call them what was it? Indigo children. That was it. They took genetic material from them and they went in and looked at it, and they see that some of the junk DNA is assembling itself into a third strand. So it is happening. Not fast enough, but it is happening.
And it can happen without being hypnotized. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Because that's a very important thing also to underline so that everybody could maybe do this if they want to do it. Because being hypnotized and hypnosis is not necessarily a very safe thing. Maybe for some people, it depends on the hypnotist, but I mean, it can be a very dangerous game, right?
I think, boy, this is a slippery slope to go down because, yeah, there is things that can be done. That is why it's an absolute must. When you're hypnotized, you have to have a recording of it. You got to know what was said. And the hypnotist is the key because he gives you the ideas that become your reality. And I would say that there are things that can be done under hypnosis that is not very. Okay, I'm going to say it. There is several murders on record being done under hypnosis where the guy that did it cannot remember.
Of course, that's mind control. That's the Manchurian
Yeah,
candidate. That's, of course, brainwashing in a different way. And they use hypnosis, of course, to implant situations and
yeah,
split the memory and the mind and create alters, different personalities within a person in order to what we know for has been used for espionage and other
yeah. That's
things.
the CIA does that all the time. But on the you said you cannot be hypnotized. I bear to differ. Have you ever tried something with a stage hypnotist?
Yes.
You
I
have?
know a couple because I'm a performer, actor,
Yeah.
singer, and stuff, and I know a lot of people in this field. So I know a couple of them just from knowing them, sort of like acquaintances. And then I was invited to see what was going on there, and it was so interesting. And I was there because I wanted to check out if they were like tricking people or fooling people, if it was real. And I spoke to audience members there afterwards. They did not know who this guy was. They had no idea what was going on. I was just looking at everything from the outside in a way, looking in, and then I interviewed people afterwards because I think it's so interesting why certain people can be tricked in the mind and be what I call easily suggestible.
Hmm. Yeah. And I was taught hypnosis by a magician. You're in Europe. You probably know of Tore Torell. He was
Tude?
Tore Torell. He was a Norwegian magician. He traveled in Europe, and he's gone now. But he was back in the 70s, 1970s, 80s, and then 90s. Those 30 years he was doing most of his work. And he taught me how to break down barriers. And I don't think I have actually ever done anything without being somewhat successful at it, but because there are barriers in the mind that you don't know are there that prevent you from doing it. That's why usually a stage hypnotist is better at this than the guy that writes book. He's got a PhD and he writes book about it. He'll never tell you the real truth because he doesn't want people to know the bad stuff about how you can get by barriers.
So, I
And
mean,
that's,
this can be used for good, as we obviously know, but I mean, and certainly a lot of people have more barriers than they know. But there's a lot of people who want to get rid of their addictions and
yeah,
bad habits and want to change their lives and are in a situation that is very difficult right now. It could be money wise or job or whatever, love life. I mean, it's a variety of complications that people might have. And
Yeah.
especially these days, we are living at a very pivotal time, difficult time on the timeline. And I mean, if we want to change that and want to have a different life, we have to start with ourselves, in ourselves, right? And if you
Yeah.
don't know what is in there, even if you're not under mind control, you're just part of the world and maybe the collective mind control. How can you break those barriers? How can you get rid of your addictions or your habits, whether it's sugar or cigarettes or something even worse?
Yeah. And a simple thing like quitting smoking. It may not be as easy as you think. Under hypnosis, you can get rid of the habit, but your body is full of toxins. And after a while, those toxins will bring you back to the habit because the urge is there. So you got to understand the deep behind the scene issues in what you're doing. And that's a little tricky. A lot of them don't.
That's finding
Yeah.
the root cause
Yep.
and pulling the root out, basically. It's a psychological thing, right? It's about, it really comes down to what happened to you earlier on in life that created the reason why you have to drink or to overeat or to eat a lot of
Yeah.
sugar or to maybe be sexually extremely active. What is it called? Nymphomania or something. I mean, there's a lot of different types of addictions.
Yeah. And once you understand what causes it, then you're going to be more successful with it. And that's one of the I don't do much hypnosis anymore because my co-host on Broadcast Team Alpha is a hypnotherapist, and she does a lot of it.
But if you are successful in changing certain things, and also, I mean, if you're successful in changing your reality in a way, what happens then? We've also heard about the Mandela effect. We've heard a lot about time travel. We've heard a lot about alterations, changing the past, also military. What happens to, is this even possible? Is this allowed in the under universal law in a way?
Oh, you brought up something. Let's say that I put somebody under hypnosis. When we come here with a plan for our life. There is a life contract. I know there is because I've seen when mine was done. I was there and I remember it. Now, if I start doing something with hypnosis for you to create that is not part of your life contract, it may not work. Or it could backfire in other ways that would not be good for you. So this gets really tricky. That's why we have a good hypnotist goes in and ask you questions. Once you have access to more information about the life plan. You can ask them questions. Will this be according to your plan in your life?
And who do you ask?
You ask through the subconscious that goes into the superconscious mind, and it goes right back to the universal mind where your source is.
A lot of people would like to change their habits, whether it's drinking or even coffee, or maybe eating too much and lose a few pounds, or something
Yeah.
like that, or change their job or their circumstances at the moment. Maybe, living in the country, growing their own food, if that's even possible anymore. And then, but it's difficult because you have to change everything. But also, how do you know if the question you asked yourself, your subconscious, do you think you'll get the right answer? This is a desire, so of course it will say, "I want to," but what if that's not part of the soul contract that you're speaking of?
Yeah. 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 It gets very tricky when you get into this, but once you get them down into deep theta brainwave pattern, whatever is above there goes away. It is usually open. It's open for suggestions, for questions, and very quickly transfer because the brain may not know the answer. So it goes into the deeper minds where it come back with the answer, and that can happen very quickly, a matter of seconds.
So we don't really know if it's part of our soul contract to change our habits, really,
Yeah.
and to meet a hypnotist or to do it through meditation or the power of thought or what, or should it be done by everybody?
I think that the fact that you are actually doing a hypnosis session would be part of your life contract, most likely because you have already experienced the overeating or the smoking and all this. You know now what it feels like. You don't necessarily need it anymore. And in your contract, you may have, you're going to meet this guy, you're going to do the hypnosis session, you're going to get rid of it. So now you're on to other experiences. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
So our minds, the mind that we humans have, how limited is it, the mind?
Well, according to people that know more about it than I do, they say we're using only 5% of our mind. I mean, our brain. Uh, that's not much. Well, I can't help it. I gotta talk. There's a book I wrote here a while back, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. In there, like I said, I teach people how to use their mind in ways they normally would think would be impossible. And I get into I talk about world history, the one that we haven't been told about, all the way back to the Anunnaki, when they had their time to create man, as they called it. They took the two ropes of life, twisted ropes of life, and created man. That sounds like double helix to me. But they did something genetically where they created a species that one of us, not necessarily all of them, because I also talk about the seeding from space. I talk about how to go within the mind and create your future before you have to live it. How to create out of seemingly nothing, like we do on the mastermind. And by the way, if you want to come and have a look at the mastermind, you can send me an email and I'll give you the link so you can come and participate and you can observe and see what it's like. That is, send the email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. And I also, me and Norila, we do the broadcast Team Alpha show. We are on 44 different platforms around the world. And on YouTube is the only one where we watch the chat room because many others don't give us a chat room. And then we have the mastermind is probably one of the most important things we do because there we help people, or people help themselves, should I say, to create things in their mind that could be healing, that could be economic windfall. We've had that happen. Money come out of nowhere where they don't expect it. And health issues, that's very commonly, it's not that hard to work on because usually it's very emotional for the people that have the infliction. So they can participate and make it happen also. Like you said, it helps to believe that it's possible. And maybe there's another time where we can talk more about time travel, because I talk about that in the book, actually how to do it. There is a way you can do that. And I've had an electronic device that was, I've had it for about 30 years and I've had some really strange experiences with it. In 2003, BBC Television came over to the United States to do a TV documentary on time travel. There were Michio Kaku was part of it, and Green was part of it, and myself. And it it was shown to about 1 billion people around the world in all uh, uh, English-speaking countries. It got a little deep. Some of the stuff that I talk about back then happened, some of it didn't. And I learned a lot about time since then because my mind back then was all wrapped up in government conspiracies and government fraud and abuse and so on. So that's where my mind was, and that's what I saw happen where they collapse. And that did not happen because afterwards I've changed that. I'm more in a spiritual arena and I create within that. So it did not happen for me, and that is good.
Could you not change what is happening in the world right now so that we could have a beautiful and wonderful place for all of us where all of what we know is probably going to happen with UN Agenda 21 or UN Agenda 2030 and the implementation of the New World Order, which is way too successful, and everything else going on right now, so that that will not happen, and it
Yeah,
can be changed and it can be stopped.
we are working on that every Sunday, every Monday night, and every Wednesday night. We have designed the future with no World War III in it, no Agenda 21 in it. And there are some, there's some green developments, but good for mankind, not based on the lies that we are told about. Earth is not overpopulated. Look at the deep of Russia. There is nobody there. In the middle of Africa, there's nobody there. So in Alaska, nobody there. So no, we are not overpopulated. It's just misuse of the resources and the population centers that we do have.
That is part of the New World Order agenda, obviously. We know that with everything that we've seen in the last 4 years, for in the last century and even more, and what they're doing right now, massively,
Yeah.
obviously, which is what we would like to end and to see an end to. That's what I mean. But I mean, if you say you were able to change something in 2003 when they did the show with you on BBC, so that the world did not collapse or whatever it was that you
Mhm.
mentioned, could you not change that now for all of us, maybe?
It has been changed already. We have designed it for the people of higher consciousness. They are going to have a good continuance. And I think you're in my timeline. I'm sitting here looking at you. So you're going to be part of that because we have created that for the rest of the world as well. There's going to be a split. Christians call it rapture. There will be a split. We are going through a form of acceleration of consciousness to the point where we are going to leave somebody behind. And that's a good thing too. I don't want to live in the same world as Hillary Clinton and her clan. So we're not, we are going to go into a good future because we work on it 3 times a week.
What do you do on the other days, if I may ask?
I do a lot of interviews. Interviews from, oh gosh, just about everywhere. And we do, Nori Love and I, we do our show on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock East Coast time. We do a live show on the broadcast team Alpha. And I also do another one, a paranormal show that goes out at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, make it 8 o'clock East Coast time. And that goes into, well, there is not all paranormal, but there is also success principles on how the mind works and how to develop your mind to higher consciousness and things like that too.
The future and what we fear could happen, or what we've been told will happen because they're going to stage that. Could be
Yeah.
the fake alien invasion, the climate lockdowns, other things they're going to roll out that could affect your health, and what have you. I- and the Third World War. You say this is not going to happen, or do you think it will happen? Can we even change any of that?
I think we already have. It is changed. So we're not going to have World War III.
But many people also in this field say that the so-called World War III is a digital war and a spiritual war, which certainly it is. And it does not necessarily have to be a sort of physical war, even though we do see that in the Ukraine and Russia and all of these other
Yeah,
places where they still do these horrific things, at
yeah.
least in one way or the other, even though we don't hear the whole truth about those places either.
Well, when I said World War III, I meant actually a shooting war with the nukes and things like that. That's not going to happen. I know that's what the cabal wants, but because there's a program, reducing Earth population to 800 million people instead of 8 billion. That's the goal for 2030. It's in
You
their own papers. You find it on the CIA website. And NASA has one, also a document out that explains it. So it's there in their own writing, but it's not going to happen. They will fail. Basically because of one thing that Europeans don't like to hear, and that is that Trump won the presidential election.
you're into Trump. You think it's okay that what he's doing.
I know he has some people around him with agendas, but what I'm hearing now is that he's going to deal with Putin, and Putin and him, believe it or not, they talk every week. So
But
they
don't you
are on
think
this.
that he did that also with other presidents and people behind the scenes in the higher echelon? Because this is just part of the game, right? To do all of these orchestrated, arranged wars. And to also
Yeah,
maybe to put in a very powerful player like Trump to divide and conquer, the Hegelian dialectic, to split and also to confuse the growing truth movement, which we've been part of for a long time, and it certainly does divide people there, just like flat Earth or round Earth. Right? I mean, if you see a growing truth movement, a lot of people are waking up. What's the best thing you can do? It's to create a lot of infighting, and boy, do people fight also in the truth movement. So actually, they're doing the elitists' work. Don't you agree?
well, there's another way to look at that, isn't that look back at what we have experienced for the last 8 years, and that nothing that we've heard on TV is true, except for
Absolutely.
the Weather Channel is pretty good. That's it.
Well, the weather, we don't know who creates the weather either. And that
Yeah,
may also be created. So who cares about the weatherman if it's somebody else creating the weather?
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we're probably at the receiving end on that one.
So, I
But
mean, there's a lot of
yeah,
deception going on, and there's a lot of things to search for, a lot of truths
yeah,
to search for here. And you have to go really deep down that
yeah.
rabbit hole to really understand the bigger picture and to always be discerning and to ask questions, huh?
Yes, it is. We got to go behind the curtain sometimes, and that's one thing that we tore down the curtain in the mastermind. We went up to it all. Everyone who walked up the curtain put our hands on it and pulled it down, and it fell to the floor. And now we can see what's behind it.
So, what is the best message you can give to the audience watching this and having watched our conversation here today?
I would say if you're not doing it, you should, and that is learn how to meditate. Higher consciousness come through meditation, and then reach out to people. Uh, my books, my videos, Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Sadhguru. These are some of my favorite. I associate with them every, few days. I'm not in person with them, but I watch their videos. That's how I associate with them. I learn from them. And they learn from each other. They learn from us. So we are becoming a mastermind of our own. That's what people would do if they really want to accelerate the raising of consciousness. Start looking at thought leaders. And then again, sooner or later, I'm going to believe something that is wrong. And if I tell you about it, that wouldn't be true. So you should really question absolutely everything, including me.
Yes, that's a very good point and an important thing to do, to be discerning while you're also open-minded, I
Yeah,
suppose. So,
yeah,
well, I
absolutely.
think we have a lot more that we could talk about, maybe at another time.
Yeah,
And
let's do that. And we could get into more time. I could show you the time travel device next time if you like.
definitely, let's do that when we do another show with you. But for
Yeah.
now, it's been a joy to have you on. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for being on Age of Truth TV. AAGE NOST.
And I got one comment for you. We're on the same frequency here. I would love to have you come on the Broadcast Team Alpha show as a guest of ours too.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about that. I would like to do that, obviously, and then I'll see you then as well.
Okay.
Thank you so
That's,
much for being on here, and I'll see you sometime soon, huh?
yep. And again, in the words of Spark, live long and prosper.
Thank you very much to AAGE NOST, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruthtv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruthtv as well. Please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon. Your support is greatly appreciated, very needed, and on behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.